What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to start looking at my journey from rank 1 PvP Noob all the way up to rank 10 player. Now, when I first got started into the Go Battle League, I really was a PvP noob, and you'll see my Great League medal even is at 100 total wins, and that's mostly just from trying to get Sinnoh stones. I was a total noob first getting into Go Battle League, and I think that puts me in a really interesting position to speak on it because you can kind of see my thought process and how I learned and grew as a player throughout the preseason. So this is going to be a 3-part series where I focus on my first early games in the preseason here and how I navigated those games. So first off, let's talk about the team here that I'm going to be using. I identified Azumarill, and so did everybody else, but as the top dog of the Great League. Azumarill is just the best Pokemon in the league, so I definitely want one of those. And then from there, my first thoughts were, okay, well, if I think Azumarill's the top Pokemon, let's play whatever beats Azumarill the hardest. So I went with a Venusaur on the team as well. And then after that, one step further, I think to myself, okay, well, other people might also bring Venusaur to counter Azumarill's, so I'm also going to play Skarmory as the top counter to Venusaur. And this is just a very, very basic team, but all 3 of these Pokemon are pretty highly rated on the Game Press Great League tier list as well, so I knew they were pretty safe investments. And I think that that's something very important to consider when you are building your first Go Battle League team. Sure, you can just play what you have, and that's well and good too. But the more that you focus on the things that we have rated very highly on the Game Press tier list for Great League, Ultra League, and Master League, I think the better you're going to do. And I do think that this strategy that I use here in this first video where I do my battles in ranks 1 and 2 is a really good strategy to utilize as you're kind of learning the ropes for Go Battle League for yourself. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into these battles here. And for our very first game into the Go Battle League, we're up against Masasa. And we have Azumarill versus Clefable. Now, I don't know what I'm doing here at all. I don't really even know my type matchups. But I'm going to go ahead and throw a fairy move at this fairy type Pokemon. I do know now that that is a neutral matchup. And I do also know that up against a Clefable, it's a pretty slow charging move, so I get a decent energy lead here, and then once my opponent is onto the Lapras, I switch into the Venusaur. My opponent should have counter-switched into their Swellow, which they now show us here, but we're just going to let their Swellow farm down my Venusaur. We even get a shield out of that ordeal, and, I don't think that my opponent has too bad of a team composition here. I do think that overall my Pokemon are more powerful, and I think the fact that I utilized that switch and they just didn't is going to make that first game a pretty easy victory. So on to match 2 here. We are up against a little Ho. We'll say a little Who, and I'm in a bad matchup, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to that Skarmory, and hopefully I don't get too punished. A Leaf Tornado isn't going to affect us, and our opponent is going to switch. They switch into their Murkrow, though. Again, somewhat similar team composition, a Grass-type Pokemon and a Flying-type Pokemon. And Murkrow, even though it isn't evolved, it does almost reach it can reach 1500 CP, so it's a fine Pokemon for the Great League. They're going to spend their shields to keep Murkrow alive, and then I'm going to switch into Azumarill, and I do shield here. Don't think I really needed to against a foul play that wouldn't have dealt that much damage, but we wind up being fine. And now they have burned their shields, so these dazzling gleams from Azumarill are not going to be too threatening. And then we still have a shield for the Leaf Tornado. And like I said, because we have such a big energy advantage, we are going to be able to take that out. And then we should be able to basically deal with this Murkrow. We'll get one foul play off on us, but that won't kill us. And that will get them to their last Pokemon. A Hydro Pump basically takes out Miss Magus there, and I don't have to get to my third Pokemon. So pretty straightforward match there too, showcasing the power of Azumarill. And I had to switch because my opponent won the lead, but that wasn't enough for my opponent to win it. Match 3 here, we are up against Michan 3-6 Go, and we have our first Azumarill mirror matchup. Now, like I said, I'm a total PvP noob at the time that I am playing these games, and maybe still, because I think I just called Play Rough Dazzling Gleam in the last match. But we are going to be fighting in Azumarill Mirror here, and I take an Ice Beam to the shield, which is super unfortunate, because now my opponent has an energy advantage, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I Hydro Pump, they shield, now they have an insane energy advantage. I go ahead and shield another Ice Beam, so my opponent should be able to win this one. As I fire off another Hydro Cannon, total PvP noob. Like I said, here's the proof. But my opponent only has one charge attack on this Azumarill quite clearly, because Ice Beam is the worst move in the Azumarill mirror. I mean, maybe Hydro Pump ain't that great either, but as we can see, Hydro Pump just won the Azumarill mirror here, so you at least get that stab bonus. But if you were going to go through the trouble of powering up your Azumarill all the way to 1500, just unlock another move. You've already significantly invested in the Azumarill at that point, so might as well go for it. The Zapdos is not a big problem. We are able to take that out quite easily. And now we have a Jirachi, which could be a little bit of trouble for my back end, but I have 2 Pokemon to deal with their 1, and they are going to have to use energy to deal with my Skarmory here. They can't just farm it down or anything like that. So we are actually just going to be able to kill it cleanly with our Skarmory, and we still had the Venusaur in the back if we really needed to. Match 4, we're up against Tapclose, and I throw my Azumarill out against a Lapras. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Venusaur. That's what I've been doing so far. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they have a Moltres for us, which is actually a really, really dirty Pokemon against my entire team. We are able to get a shield there, which is pretty fantastic in a losing matchup. Then they get the Overheat debuff. So feeling pretty good about that. Now I am up a shield, and I can farm down the Moltres no problem. The Zapdos comes out, and I'm going to shield. It's just a Drill Peck, but better safe than sorry. And now I'm going to go for some Dazzling Gleams, Play Roughs on this Zapdos, and we should be able to take it out quite quickly. So now we are up a Pokemon, a full Pokemon against their Lapras. I'm going to go for Play Rough, which will obviously get another shield. I should be able to shield their move, but I actually get to a Play Rough before they get to their Ice Beam, so probably only a single move Lapras here, and then I can farm it down. So that kind of just shows you the strength of Azumarill. Basically cleared their whole team. So yeah, definitely pretty strong and a wise investment indeed. And to wrap up our rank 1 battles, I'm up against Agent Reaper 167, and I definitely win the lead here with Azumarill into Infernape. So my opponent's got to switch. They switch into Flygon, and they should be fearing an Ice Beam here. They should 100% shield that. Play Rough even kills them too, so not exactly sure what they were thinking. Looks like my opponent's entire team is weak to fairy moves, so I am just going to be able to... Oh, I actually do go for a switch on this. I'm not sure if I was thinking it would be a Thunder or potentially a Dragon type move, but either way, I feel like I can save a shield on my Azumarill because I know Azumarill is going to be so good against that Infernape, and more importantly, I don't want to put myself in a position where I've got Venusaur Skarmory against Infernape. and then I just get blast burned out of the game. So I am going to go ahead and flamethrower here just so I can build up and not waste all my energy that I had. And then even a frenzy plant is enough to take him down. I still have the Azumarill waiting in the back there, so when I get thundered down, I can switch to the Azumarill, still have a shield. So that is going to be a pretty clean 5-0, which I gotta say is pretty good for my very first foray into the Go Battle League. I've got another set here of my rank 2 battles, and for the first rank 2 battle, we get an Azumarill mirror matchup, and I'm still kind of figuring this out a little bit, but I am going to go ahead and shield their play rough. Let's see if they trade shields. They do indeed decide to trade shields, so we're going to have a little bit of a slog here, and I'm willing to trade my Azumarill for their Azumarill. It does put my Venusaur in kind of an awkward place, though, and that'll be better in my next video once I change my team around a little bit. But for right now, I'm just going to be content to go Azumarill. I'm thinking, hey, if my opponent is running the exact same team as me, if I switch into Venusaur, they'll switch into Skarmory, and then I'm boned. Then I basically just cost myself the matchup. Where here, I could potentially win the matchup if I just have a little bit more bulk than my opponent, and it looks like I do. So pretty lucky there to have a better Azumarill than my opponent. And then they have an Altaria, so I'm going to go for the Skarmory, and Skarmory wins this matchup pretty easily. The Dragon Pulses are not very effective, certainly, and neither are the Sky Attacks, so I'm going to fling some Sky Attacks back at them, and I guess I'll have to take another Dragon Pulse here. No, they do have Sky Attack as well. They just used the wrong move. Okay, so we will Sky Attack to finish them off, and then it's just a coin flip. Is Venusaur going to be good against their last Pokemon? It is. Venusaur's Poison type will let me resist the Fighting type damage, and I won't take that much from the close combat, and then I'll be able to take the Hitmontop down. But that was a pretty close one, you know. We're in rank 2 now. The battles are starting to get real, and we are up against Vedic Sloan, and it's another Azumarill mirror matchup. So that's going to get pretty popular. Like I said, Azumarill is the best Pokemon in the Great League. I'd be surprised if nobody else was running him. But they make a pretty crucial mistake here. They fired off their Ice Beam right away, so I knew it was an Ice Beam, so I just took it to the face. I got no problem just taking an Ice Beam. Now, this one could be a play rough, and it is, but now we know, you know? And we are able to get a pretty significant advantage here. You'll see they're already in the red, and I switched to Venusaur quickly to farm them down at the end. No clue if this was the right call. Now I am locked in against this Jirachi, and I've either got to take this Doom Desire or shield it so that I can throw out a Frenzy Plant, which isn't going to be very effective anyways. So I'm not even sure if that was a great use of a shield. It got a shield out of my opponent, but then they were able to farm me down on the back end. So I am going to spend the shield here on my Azumarill, and then I'm going to go for the Play Rough. Now, this should be resisted too, but it will get the shield from my opponent, and then their Doom Desire will take me down. So this is going to be a pretty close matchup. I'm going to have Skarmory, and I'm going to be able to farm a little bit here, and then it's an Altaria. So very lucky there that my opponent was playing Altaria, and that's one of the reasons that I like Skarmory too, is it's just so good against Altaria. So we're going to take down this Altaria with no problem here. We are going to take a Sky Attack, and then the Jirachi is going to come back in and Doom Desire us almost immediately, but we kill it before it is able to. So I'm not sure if that was just slow fingers on my opponent and we just got lucky, or if they just didn't quite have the energy for the Doom Desire yet, though. But it's a pretty cheap move. For our next matchup, we're up against a Dewott, which honestly I don't even know the typing of. I don't even know if this is a Steel-type Pokemon or something else, because I think I have a Dewott, but, you know, I'm not super familiar with the later generations, and like I said, I'm a total PvP noob. Trust me, believe me, I'm an idiot. So my opponent takes down the Venusaur that we switch into by switching into the Latias, and I shield the outrage here because it could have been Thunder. That much I do know. You know, one part of my knowledge that I do have is move pools because of my work with Game Press, and more specifically, I really know the legendary move pools pretty well because I participate in a lot of legendary raids. So we are going to be able to take down the Latias. We still have the Dewott to deal with, but I don't think Skarmory is going to have too much of a problem with it, and I shield another Outrage. I don't know Kingdra's moveset, I'll be honest with you right there. And I thought about switching to Skarmory just to get a slight energy lead. And you know what? I forgot we even dealt with the Dewott with the Venusaur. So we don't have to deal with the Dewott. We just had a Skarmory sitting in the back for fun. Now we're up against Gray Sky 520. And we get a good lead here for like one of the first times. We are up against an Umbreon with our Azumarill, and they are going to go ahead and switch out. They switch into Registeel, and this team is actually pretty weak to Registeel, which I start facing more at the higher ranks, which is why I switch my team after rank 3. So I am going to go ahead and throw some shields to stay alive in this, and Azumarill is doing an okay job, you know. Interestingly, they're using Focus Blast, so I don't really have to use my shields here necessarily, but I am going to just continue to shield these Focus Blasts, and that does buy us a significant amount of time. We're now up a Pokemon, and we've got the energy for another Play Rough. So I'm going to go for this Play Rough. I'm going to hope that my Azumarill dies somewhat soon. Actually, I just go ahead and switch right into Venusaur. I forgot about that. Okay, well, our Venusaur hits an Ice Beam, which is pretty unfortunate, and you do have to be aware of coverage moves and switching into an Azumarill that already has an energy advantage. So this Azumarill could wind up being pretty tight for us here, but now I'm going to go for Skarmory and build some energy on the Skarmory, and I'm thinking hopefully that is enough. Let's just tank some foul plays. It's better than tanking an Ice Beam from this Azumarill. So the Azumarill comes in, and it has an Ice Beam ready to go, but it's not enough to kill us, and we didn't even have to use a Sky Attack. The Azumarill was so low health, so sometimes that stuff can be difficult to track, especially when you're a PvP noob like me. Now up against Jesmeave, we have another good opening matchup here with Azumarill into Altaria. So I'm going to Play Rough, and they have to shield because this could be an Ice Beam, but a Play Rough would still deal a lot of damage to them. So they're going to fire back with a Sky Attack. Oh, a Dragon Pulse. Okay, well, that's not going to do it. So we can just go ahead and keep throwing Play Roughs and not shielding, and my opponent's going to have a pretty bad time here. They are going to switch out into Gyarados, and I'm like, oh, that's a water type, but it's a flying type. What do I do? I go ahead and switch into Skarmory. I'm not totally sure if this was the right call, to be totally honest, but I figured it might be a Dragon Tail Gyarados. I wasn't looking super close at the attack animation. I just knew I wanted to get out there. And it does wind up benefiting us significantly because with Marowak as their last Pokemon, I was going to say I'll be able to kill it cleanly with Venusaur, but Marowak just goes down to my Skarmory, and if you looked up at the top there, you could see it was only a 1300 CP Marowak. My opponent brought like 1.5 Pokemon ready to battle, but their Marowak was not ready for the Go Battle League. Altaria is a Pokemon that you can just evolve and have it be ready to use, so in that aspect, it's not as much of an investment as, say, an Azumarill, but I do think you probably want to try to stick to 1500 CP Pokemon. We had a pretty easy go of it here in these first rounds of battles, And I'm thankful for that, for sure, because as you can tell, I really didn't know what I was doing here. And I think that's an important takeaway, though, too. And even to my opponents that I faced in this video, the fact that they were in Go Battle League and battling it out and even just learning and seeing what was out there, you shouldn't be too afraid to just jump in the queues, because I know a lot of players that are like, oh no, I'm too casual, I shouldn't be doing it. This is me jumping into Go Battle League with zero experience. And yes, I know a lot about Pokemon Go, so it's not totally fair to call myself a PvP noob, but I'm learning, you guys are learning, that's why you're watching. We're all learning here, it's part of the learning process, and one of the best ways to learn is to just jump into the league. So hopefully you guys will give it a try. Maybe you learned something from this video. If not, you can learn something from jumping into the leagues yourself. And I was also going to say you can learn something from one of my next two videos. I'm going to keep showcasing my preseason battles. My next set of videos, my next video is going to showcase my rank 4 and 5 battles, and then I'll have one video that just showcases my best battles from rank 6 to rank 10. So stay tuned for that. If you want to see more, subscribe and hit that like button to let me know that you enjoyed the content. You can also comment down below to let me know what you'd like to see in the future. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.